Hey everybody, and welcome to the monthly pickups. Yes, it's another volume, and it's another big one. It's a two-part video. So this is part one, and it's going to show the comedies and action sci-fi movies and dramas. And I had a great month in September, just like I did in October, even with a break due to health reasons. Anyhow, I'll go ahead and I was telling Eddie in the group that the reception for these videos have really took off. I mean, I'm surprised, because I get a lot of views for these, and I want to thank you for watching. If you have any comments or suggestions on what to pick up, hey, drop them in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to reply back, That's how I've always been. But, yeah, I like to collect everything, and, seeing this here, I'm going to go ahead and take these off because I can't get my glasses clean. Seeing these here is just one of those deals. So I'm going to go ahead and show off everything I've picked up, comedy and action sci-fi wise, for the month of September. So here we go. Here's part one. Now, during the mission with Eddie, which would lead into my break, we stopped at Goodwill. And in the Goodwill, I picked up The Jerk, which is a very good Steve Martin comedy. If you've never seen The Jerk, it's one of those best ones that he's done. And I've been looking for it for a while. And Eddie said, you need to pick that up if you're looking, the Steve Martin one. Now, moving on, I actually got this with another Blu-ray at the pawn shop. They have a special buy 2 Blu-rays, get them for $5 deal at that local pawn shop. So this was brand new, and I got this because it could thin out some DVDs from my section. And it's 4 movies, and it's Dumb and Dumber, Hall Pass, Wedding Crashers, and Horrible Bosses. And I like Horrible Bosses and Dumb and Dumber. I've always liked those two, so it made sense to get it on Blu-ray. So that'll thin out one DVD there. Now, at the pawn shop, one day I was looking through there, and in their DVD section they had a classic Kathleen Turner and Nicolas Cage movie from the 80s. It is Peggy Sue Got Married. This one is one I ain't seen in years, but this is a classic flashback comedy do-over. You get to do your life over comedy, and I like this. I like I ain't seen it in years, and this is an early Nick Cage film. You can see a picture of him early in his career. Now, this came from Cheap Thrills, and this one was, this came from Cheap Thrills, and this one was really a nice one. And I know I saw this on the shelf, and I said, I need to grab this quick, because I've never seen this whole series on DVD for sale. It is, and they blanked it out, but it used to be called Hate Vern, It's Earnest. It just goes, It's Earnest. I don't know why they blanked out the Hey Vern part, except on the back. It's just, it's really weird, to see that. I mean, on the back it's got Hey Vern, It's Earnest, but on the front it's just got It's Earnest. Not going to, Mill Creek Entertainment put this out, so I went ahead and grabbed it, and I just need one more Earnest thing, and it's Earnest Saves Christmas, and that's the only one I need. I picked up from Cheap Thrills for $1. My Best Friend's Girl, with Dane Cook and Kate Hudson and Jason Biggs and Alec Baldwin. I think I've seen this years ago, and Dane Cook is an a-hole. He's basically, I think he plays a guy named Tank, who just gets with these women to get them to go back to their exes. He's just an a-hole. He treats them like garbage, and well, he meets his match, who he really falls for, because this girl is going to treat him the same way, and he's like, wow. But I think I've seen that one, and his father is played by Alec Baldwin, who treats women the same way, and he learned that from him. Now, speaking of comedies, I got this one during the month of September, and this was at the pawn shop, and this is a classic. I got I'm Going to Get You Sucker. Yeah, I've been looking for this one for a long time. I have to re-edit that out because I didn't cover up the card. A lady had actually sold her DVDs to the pawn shop, and she left her name and address. I know you want to keep your movies and you identify them, but she had her name and address put on a card right here. So I got my finger over it because that's crazy. But this was a classic '80s with Keenan Ivory Wayans, and it brings back a lot of the old '70s stars from those films. So yeah, this actually would lead into In Living Color, actually. So I've got to go back and do some editing, which I hate. At the pawn shop, I picked up Mel Brooks' Silent Movie. And Silent Movie is one of those classic Mel Brooks films. I only need the producers now, I think, of all his movies, because I think I've got them all. I think I need Dracula Dead and Loving It. I believe he did that one. But yeah, this was a nice little film. Mel Brooks Silent. Also at the pawn shop, I picked up Soap Dish with Robert Downey Jr., Kevin Kline, and Sally Field and Whoopi Goldberg. This is a story behind the soap operas that's going on, and it's a very interesting story. Very very funny at times, and this is really what's weird. Around the same time this movie came out, John Candy had a movie called Delirious, and in Delirious, he's basically doing, he's in a soap opera world. So these two movies, and it had a pretty decent star cast. So these two movies were basically dealing with soap operas, and it's very weird to come out at the same time. I think the Candy one actually bombed, and this one actually did okay because it had Sally Field and Kevin Kline in it. Now this is more of a comedy drama, but it's the Three Stooges, and I've been looking for this one for a long time. This one is actually got this from Goodwill. This is the movie to come out in the early 2000s about their life, and Mel Gibson helped produce it, and it's a sad story at times. It's very sad, They speed through the Shemp deal, but it's very, it's got some great moments. It shows how the Stooges started, but it also shows their ending as the time passed. And it's a nice little biography. I think it's better than that comedy he put out with Will Sasso and them as the new Stooges. And now moving to more dramatic rock biographies, I picked up this nice Blu-ray of Rocket Man from Cheap Thrills, and Eddie was with me, and I made a little trade in to get it, knock it down a little bit, but I had the Queen biography, and I decided to get the Elton John one because I started halfway into it, and it was on Tubi or Hulu, and I never got to finish it, but I was like, this would be a kind of a good, nice Blu-ray to get. Plus, the actor Taron Egerton is getting ready to, there's rumors that he's going to be the next Wolverine. There's rumors going around that he's actually ready for that role. I'm going to take these glasses off. But that would be kind of cool if that's true, because, Hugh Jackman played musicals, and he was, you couldn't tell because the guy was just such a manly guy, So, there's no, actors can do anything. And if he can do Wolverine, all power to him. Now, moving on, I picked up some westerns, and one of these is an old 80s western called Silverado, and it has Fred Ward, Danny Glover, has a bunch of other classic ones, Kevin Kline, and I also picked it up for The Quick and the Dead. It's at the pawn shop for, these 2 for 1, and this is the 90s version of The Quick and the Dead. There's actually 2 versions. Eddie found me the 80s version, and I picked up the 90s version with Silverado. So Silverado was a pretty good western, and that's why I picked it up for the most part. And I was like, well, with the Quick and the Dead remake, I'll go ahead and get both of them. Moving on, now at the flea market a couple weeks back, it was I can't remember which exactly. It's in the video. I picked up a thing of Blu-rays, and I detailed a story. I think maybe where a guy jumped in front of me for a game, but he didn't get in front of me for the Blu-rays, which I was there already. And this old lady was real nice. Hey, can I look with you? And I was like, yeah. Well, I found Copland on Blu-ray, and this was really nice. I've been wanting to watch this. It's got Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, Ray Liotta, Stallone in a serious dramatic role as a deaf sheriff. He wears a earpiece, ear hearing aid to hear, because I seen a clip of that. So it's kind of nice to see that. Now, at a pawn shop, at some point, I decided to pick up Star Wars. I decided to pick up the Rise of Skywalker for some weird reason. I was like, well, I'd like to get the last movie and the whole entire trilogy, 9-movie trilogy, and even though it's not that good, because the whole last trilogy was so disjointed, it's just like nothing really flowed. So I went ahead and picked it up, and it's okay as a movie, but I went ahead and picked it up, and it's a nice little ending piece. Moving on, I decided to stay with the action trend, and I decided to get Under Siege 2 with Steven Seagal. Yeah, I've got Under Siege 1, so I had to get Under Siege 2. And I like Seagal's earlier action films, right up until the mid to late 90s, and then things went off the track with him. I think he just became too his ego went too high. That's probably what happened. But yeah, Under Siege 2, baby. Now, I was driving back one day. I think it was, I was coming back from, let's see. I didn't go to work. I think it was coming back from dropping my sheet off at work. And I was coming back, and I saw this little yard sale. This lady was selling some movies, and I didn't even know this existed. There's a TV series called Star Hunter, the complete series, and this has Michael Perry in it from Eddie and the Cruisers. So, I went ahead and picked it up. This are in great shape. I think it's 22 episodes, and it is the year 2275 in this. It takes place. It's a really weird series to see, the guy from Eddie and the Cruisers, Michael Perry, in this. So I went ahead and picked it up. Now, one day I went into the pawn shop, and I'm always on the lookout for wrestling DVDs, wrestling collection sets that I need. And I almost picked one up with Eddie on that last mission, Ricky Steamboat one, but I decided to hold off, I don't really need it. I decided to get this one, though. It is The History of the World Heavyweight Championship. And this is the former WCW World Title, the NWA World Title. It goes all the way back to 1909. And some of the history is just a little make-believe, but hey, it's wrestling. And it's got Lou Thesz. It talks about him, talks about Ric Flair. Ooh, it talks about all the big gold belt champions, and I missed that belt. That belt was classic. And I think that's the one thing, with Triple H in charge, he needs to bring back real titles that actually look like titles instead of toy props. I think that's one of the things that need to happen, because that's why AEW's belts look a little bit better, because they actually look like championship belts. And that's what I miss. I miss that, and I miss the old WWF, the one back in the 2000s, that early 2000 belt. I mean, that thing was big. But yeah, I can't wait this is a 3-disc set, and I got this at the pawn shop. So they had a WWF one, but one of the discs ain't in that good a shape. Moving on, I picked up a movie on Eddie's recommendation called Red with Brian Cox and Tom Sizemore. Never have seen this movie. The back, the description of the back of it sounds pretty interesting, so I picked it up on Eddie's recommendation. So we'll see. Read. They should have told the truth. They should have told the truth. Now, before I got with Eddie a long time before, I actually found this at a pawn shop. And I had the first movie of this. I have the Boondock Saints. So now I have the Boondock Saints 2. Boondock Saints 2. This looks pretty cool. All Saints Day. They said the sequel was actually better than the first one, from what people have said, so I had to see. They're trying to get a third one done, from what I've heard. Now we're moving on, and I found this one actually at a flea market, at 52 Flea Market when I went that one time. And the guy only charged me 75 cents, because that's all I had on me. So I just go ahead and take it. It is Fight Club. And Eddie ain't a big fan of Fight Club. He's not a big fan of it, but I had to get it, because, it's one of Brad Pitt's best ones, and I always like that. The first rule about Fight Club. Yeah. Tyler Durden says Fight Club. And I actually like the box of this. This looks pretty cool. And I actually like the soap on the back. A nice little 2-disc set. Nice little DVD set. Now we're getting more into more action films. And now I actually got a 3-discs movie. And I got this at a pawn shop. And I only got it for this one movie, but I'm not going to kick. I'll watch the second one, because it's kind of a classic. I got Navy SEALs, Platoon, and Red Dawn. And I mostly picked it up for Red Dawn, but Platoon sounds pretty cool. I've always seen that movie talked about as a big 80s type film to watch. So Platoon and Red Dawn probably will be the two I watch off this. I don't know about Navy SEALs. I've never seen that one with Charlie Sheen and Michael Biehn. But yeah, I can't. Red Dawn with Patrick Swayze and him, fighting the resistance. Leading the resistance. Now, the only reason I picked up this at that flea market, I think I detailed it. This one guy didn't want to cut that many deals, and I only bought one Blu-ray off of him and one comic. And well, at the time, I went ahead and picked up this one right here. It's the Terminator Genesis and Terminator for the Blu-ray, the 2-disc Blu-ray set. And yeah, there's the 2 discs right there. So I went ahead and picked this up, and this will actually save me room on my shelf. It'll actually get rid of one extra Blu-ray that I've got. I've got both Blu-rays of these movies, but getting this will cut down to one. So yeah. And Genesis, it's time wonky as hell. It's kind of silly. But it's not as bad as Dark Fate. I got halfway into Dark Fate and had to turn it off. I mean, this is just awful, man. This is just awful. I don't know why you would do this to a movie, but Genesis isn't as bad. It's not as good. I have to be honest with you. They should have stopped after Terminator 2. I don't know why. I think they finally decided to stop making Terminator films. Smart money said stop. Moving on to something else that will never end, because it actually has good films. It is Batman, 1966 for the Blu-ray. I've got all the Batman films on Blu-ray now. And I just needed to get the 66 Batman. And this is the classic Adam West. And yeah, I had to get it. So it goes right there on the Blu-ray shelf with my other Batman films. Oh yeah. And finally, the last action film I got, and this was really weird, and I just picked it up because of the cast and the premise of it. This is one of the last films Bruce Willis done. His direct-to-DVD movies. He done so many of them. They said like 50-some movies in like a 4-year span or 3-year span. He would just go work a couple days, get paid a couple million, and then go to the next one. So, nobody knew he was suffering from an early issue of like a type of Alzheimer's at the time, because he only had a few lines in these movies, and people was feeding him the lines in his earpiece, and nobody really knew it. So in this one, he plays with Christopher Meloni, from Law and Order, and Dave Bautista. It is called Marauders, The Ritual Pay, and it's about bank robbery, and kind of interesting premise, you know. And like I said, Willis does not play that big a role. He just shows up for probably like a few things, and that's how his roles was at the end. And that, like I said, nobody knew he was suffering. It's kind of sad. But now he can retire, and he's done a lot of great roles. John McClane, he don't have to do any more. But yeah, this was kind of a nice little end piece to get. But that's it for this part 1. Stay tuned for next week for part 2, and you'll see a great horror film haul. Okay.